Hassie Harrison, welcome to An Actor's Spares. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Oh, it means so much. I'm such a big fan of yours. I loved, The Broken Lizard. What are they? Are they a comedy troupe or a comedy production company?
Yeah,
Or
they're kind of all of the things, but yeah.
yeah. So when I saw that, obviously like you're a superstar on that, and then Yellowstone. Anything that Taylor Sheridan does, I follow him. And Wes Bentley's always been like the career that I've wanted, so I just always worshipped him. And so it's so cool to see you on that now, and you're crushing the game. And
Oh,
I'm so excited for you.
thank you. I really appreciate it. It took me a second to get here, but
Hey,
all in good time.
I got a podcast, so you're crushing. So talk to me. You grew up in Texas, right?
Yeah. I grew up in Texas, in Dallas, and kind of like around like the whole ranching world a little bit too. And yeah, I kind of just always had that feeling that this, coming out here and chasing this dream was going to be a part of my future. My mom was super involved with the Dallas Children's Theater. And
Yeah, I was gonna say one of your parents was an artist, right? I was doing
yeah.
some, yeah.
Yeah, my mom paints. She does all sorts of visual arts, but she just kind of instilled the importance of being artistic and creativity. And she always took me to go see plays, and it was so important for her to create a space for kids, who didn't have opportunities to have an after school program. And and I think you either like growing up when your parents like something, you either
I was just gonna say this. Yeah.
or you're like,
Yeah.
cool, yeah, that is important.
So how did it align with your parents' thoughts on that? Like, was there a moment? Was there a play? Was there, a film? Like, what was it that was like, yeah, this is it?
Honestly, like I have three sisters, and the one I'm closest in age to, we're 13 months apart. She and I, like, we watched a lot of movies together, and
Yeah.
I think we just would rewatch the same movies. Like in movies we shouldn't have been watching. It was Legends of the Fall,
Oh,
Last of
nice.
the Mohicans, Elizabeth with Kate Blanchett. That was like one of the ones where I was like, wow. And Coming to America, I just had these like
classic.
I had just Airplane, like 8 movies on VHS that I would just rewatch over and over. And like my sisters and I know every line from every one of those movies.
That's so funny. That's amazing. And then were your other sisters doing your mother's children's theater program or no?
Yeah, some were, some weren't, and we kind of all had different paths and different interests and whatnot. But yeah, so then I graduated from high school fairly early, and I went to SMU when I was 15, turning 16. So yeah, I know. So I got early, and I was gonna move out to LA, and I was like, you gotta get started early. And my actor's actually my cousin is actually an actor, and I came out here with my mom, and we went and had lunch, and he was like, you know what, go and like do anything but. He was like, this town has a real tendency to like
Eat you alive. Yeah.
And just spit you back out. And he was like, if you have like a good education and like solid footing and more life experience, you'll probably be a better actor if that's still what you ultimately want to do.
Yeah, totally.
And sometimes I could find myself in two minds about it, you know what I mean? Where there was like, after I graduated from college, I got a degree in archaeology.
Oh, so you did graduate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I got a degree in like a business, and then I lived in Copenhagen, and I studied European cinema there.
Wow.
So I definitely got like a cool life experience, and like having that like, kind of, well, I guess it wasn't really a traditional college experience, but yeah. So after that, I moved out here and just kind of,
So then what, you graduated college at 19?
Well, I took a year off in between there, but yeah, I was like 19, 20.
Wow.
And, yeah. And then I came out here, and I think I had a bit of that like type A personality still, of like, okay, well, if I just do this, then I can do that. And like art doesn't work like that. I'd kind of let that like, so I went and got in every acting school. I went to Strasbourg, you know what I mean?
I went to Strasbourg as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
In LA or New York?
In New York. I'm curious, what made you decide LA over New York? Just because Texas is closer to there? Was that the main factor?
Yeah. And I think I knew that ultimately, like, what I grew up watching and wanting to be a part of was movies. And I loved theater and I loved theater, but I just knew that,
Yeah.
I don't know. It shows me a little bit too.
Yeah. So then when you got out,
there may have been some love involved.
love that. Got it. That's what kept me here too. So I get it.
Yeah. Right.
not together anymore, but you know, it happens. So then tell me, when you got out there, you know, I did the LA thing for like 8 months, and it can just, you're a needle in a stack of needles. How did you start kind of positioning yourself and getting into showcases, or were you able to get rep before you got there, or what was your talk?
Yeah, I mean, I like, again, so I only was in acting school for 2 years. I wasn't looking for a manager. I didn't want an agent. I knew, like, I was like, I saw this thing that like young people do where they go out and they like get the representation too fast, and then they almost kind of like jump the gun a little bit.
They're green.
I knew I wanted to be a good actor. And then, you know, so, and then, I found representation after that, and, you know, got some indie movies. I did a show called Heart of Dixie that I got a recurring on. So I just like had a couple things that, like, you know, you just got to start building momentum, because so much of it is, you know, so much of auditioning is like, you have to get casting directors to trust you. You know, you might go in there and like kill an audition once, but like they need to know that you can consistently come in and show that you're not crazy.
Yeah.
And you can just, you know, have interesting choices and, you know, bring cool things to a character.
Was your agent through Strasbourg Showcase? Or were you doing the backstage, like cold email?
Yeah, I definitely spent a lot of time on backstage. And then, you know, I was lucky. It was like a friend of a friend was like, hey, you know, I finally was like, you know, and he goes, like, I finally reached out to someone, and he was like, well, it took you long enough. I was curious. Like, he was like, this is just as beneficial for me as it is for you. Because I was like, you know, I'm not the kind of person who likes to ask favors or like leverage something, but it was like I was friends with someone who was a manager and knew other managers. So, you know, and that was just a lucky happenstance.
And because, you know, the method is Strasbourg, and we go there because we want to be character actors, and, you know, obviously because you're so beautiful, I imagine, you know, a lot of the roles you were going out for were like cheerleader and things like that at first. Was that annoying for you to have to deal with that?
Yeah, I also think that it slowed me down a little bit, because it doesn't feel true to who I am. Like, I've always felt like trapped in a body that didn't feel like me. And it's so cool. Like, you know, the shows I'm on now, it's like, you know, these showrunners see me for me, and they're like, oh, you're not that girl at all. You're actually more of a dude. And like,
no, like I'm sober 4 years, but right now I'd like be like, let's go get a beer. You know, like I just want to get.
No, I mean, so yeah, I think it was a lot of that, of like being like bimbo number 4, and you know, it feels it makes you feel small. It can feel degrading. There's just no two ways about it. But it's like, you know, seeing it of like, this is a path to that, or, you know, that I got to a place where it's like, I wasn't even in a place to turn things down. But if it was a casting director I already knew, who knew me, I'd rather just, I don't want them to keep seeing me this way.
Yeah, totally. It's not a representation of what you can do.
Yeah.
Were you doing, like, I know here in New York we have it called one-on-one. In LA there's like a Next Level Studios. Were you doing any of those like casting director workshops? Or,
you know, I went to Leslie Kahn and studied comedy there afterwards. Whoops, let me silence that phone. So sorry. And you know, I feel like in my upbringing, I felt like, you know, casting, those workshops aren't really like around like they used to be. They kind of got a bad rap where, you know,
it became pay for play.
Yeah, you have to like pay to show who you are. And you know, that kind of, something about it kind of like rubs me the wrong way, where it's like,
Yeah.
and I get it, like you can buy your way in or you could have this opportunity, but I
Yeah.
also had a lot of friends that were doing them, and it just felt like, I don't know. But
Fraudulent, maybe,
yeah, there was
Yeah.
something about it that
Yeah.
like kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where it's like, you know, just have us come in for auditions.
And then for like survival, what did you find yourself doing? Were you waiting
Yeah, I mean,
tables?
I've had quite a few little jobs. I worked at Equinox as a
Perfect
receptionist at the
Equinox.
spa,
Yeah.
and got like got, I don't know. That was a very like LA experience, and
I'm sure you
it
got some pretty heavy stories from that.
opened my eyes in some really big ways. And it's like nothing's better than having like being yelled at by like D-list celebrities of like,
Oh
you
my
know, there's
God.
something working in like the spa industry where everything's supposed to be super relaxing. If anything went slightly wrong, you know, I would just get yelled at all the time. And
Pauly
you know,
Shore's pissed.
oh yeah, exactly. But
And
yeah, you know, picking up jobs here and there, and you know,
how did you stay buoyed? Because for me, and I think a lot of other actors out there, you can't turn a corner without seeing a movie set or like a friend that was in your class on a billboard. You know what I mean? Like, what was it that kept you going? Even especially during this time of like cheerleader and things that weren't your authentic self. Like, how did you stay just, all right, don't worry about it, I'm going to keep going?
yeah, you know, you kind of, I guess I am disciplined in that way. I'm one of those people that like, I notice a lot of my friends like they carry auditions with them. I worked for a casting director for like a year and a half, and I learned so much in that experience of like watching what people bring into the room. But like the biggest takeaway for me was like knowing how impersonal it is ultimately, and how little it actually has to do with you, because you know it's people get picked for the craziest of reasons of, you know, things that have nothing to do with their performance. And so many times the best actor doesn't get the part.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I've learned how to like, I walk out of an audition, I'm like, all right, next. And I just move on. And like, some of my friends are like, I don't know how you can do that. Or they're like, I'm still waiting to hear back. And you know, but, I also, you know, and I have a lot of friends that are far more successful than me. And it was hard. It is, you know, it's that same muscle that like reminds you to just of being happy for other people, or like knowing that someone else's beauty doesn't threaten my own, or that, you know, someone else's success. And I always say rising tides raise all ships. So, you know,
I love that. There's always that awkward LA party when your friend books something and like 10 of your friends are there and they all hate you for it, you know, but they're all pretending, we're so happy you booked your guest star.
I think I'm lucky because now all my friends have seen me grinding for so long. They're like genuinely like, you deserve this, girl.
Amazing. So then was Heart of Dixie your first guest star that started to really open things up for you?
Yeah. I think that was one where I was able to get kind of an agent off of that, because they were like, oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? So it was, and it was cool. It was on the Warner Brother lot, and it was like all these like legends had been on that set, and you know, it's so
eating in the commissary, so cool. It's like George Clooney, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and it's just like, you know, I was so starry-eyed just to get to like see how it happens, because you know, there is acting in a class and then doing it in front of all these cameras and understanding that whole, you know, different element to like acting with a camera right next to your face. And it is different than, you know, doing it in a class or on your couch at home.
And then once you got that agent from the Heart of Dixie credit, were they able to get you in for less of the cheerleader things and more of the things that you wanted to be going for?
Yeah, they were. And, you know, and sometimes too, I feel like, you know, it's also just me going in with casting directors and taking that little time to, you know, rap out with them for a second and then get to know my personality type or get to know me a little better. And, you know, that's some of my favorite people in Los Angeles are just the awesome casting directors that like, you know, they're the unsung heroes of this industry.
No. I've got so many here in New York: Sig Day Miguel, Steve Vincent, bowling Misha that have been so good to me. So I know what a game changer that can be. And I'm curious, because you booked Tacoma FD, like, did you have a comedy improv background? Like, did you do the Groundlings? Did you do
UCB? Yeah,
Ah, so
yeah.
the team, like, did you get that far?
No, I did 3 years at UCB, and I had done, even through Strasbourg, I'd done, improv classes and stuff. Yeah. And I've always kind of, fancied myself as like I'm definitely the like crack up of the family. Like I'm definitely that sister who like makes a joke out of everything. Like I've always liked to make people laugh. So it feels like a really, a privileged thing to get to do, especially like when we're living in a pandemic. I'm so excited. Our shows come back on, and I'm just like, there's no better medicine than a little bit of laughter and just being able to kind of escape our realities for a second.
Totally. And now I hate to say this, but that's the only UCB left, right? Is the LA one?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's so sad. I hope they're able to bring it back to New York soon, because that was a real loss to the community here. Talk to me about doing that, because speaking of like clicky, I know the UCB LA can be really clicky. Was that a good experience for you, or was that,
Yeah, I think I recognized that a little bit. And, so one of the guys on my show, a guy, Eugene Cordero, who I just think is the funniest, greatest human ever. He came up in the New York UCB with Tina Fey. And, I'm so lucky because in a lot of times, it's like who you get to do improv with. It's so akin to like playing tennis with someone better than you, is that like, I now get to do improv with this guy who is taught and is, you know what I mean? And that's up to my game so much. But yeah, I mean, I think that I could feel that there's a little bit of clickiness around that world. And I had kind of like heard some stories and stuff, and it's just.
And I'm curious to ask you, because I know a lot of agents, when they see, someone like yourself that is incredibly beautiful and has improv experience, they want to get them a hosting. Was that something that your agent tried to do for you, or were you like, no, that's not me?
No, I never was interested in hosting, or that nobody ever put that out there. So
got it. Because I think that's what happened to like Maria Menounos. Yeah. So I was just curious, but that's awesome. Then
I guess I've never had the interest to host.
Yeah. That's more of a journalist,
Mm-hmm.
So then talk to me about, how did the audition come your way for Tacoma FD?
That was at that time when I kind of realized I actually was on a family vacation, and I had, firstly, I was doing this movie, Max Reload and the Nether Blasters, that's coming out later this year. And the audition came across my desk, or metaphorically, got an email, and I put it on tape, and I just had this weird feeling. I was like, I think this is like my role. And it was like a girl with a bunch of dudes who, you know what I mean? It was just like, it just felt right. And I was like, I never say this. And I was like, I think I'm going to get this. And then I like literally see in the trades, like 2 weeks later, they cast another girl. And I was like, never mind.
What?
Guess my intuition's off. So anyways, I'm on this family trip, and I kind of just like, I was telling my mom, I was like, I don't know if it's going to work out for me. And, I'm starting to think about other things that like would fulfill me in the same way. And it was like, and then like the next morning I got the audition for Tacoma again, and that they had to recast that part.
Oh, wow.
After doing the pilot, and it had gone to series. And I was like, okay. And they were like, you can put it on tape. And I was like, nope, I'm flying home. And so I kind of like, bet on myself. I just knew that I wanted to be in the room with those guys, because I'm like, clearly they want a girl who can like kick back and chill and, can create a fun, loving space. And so I just knew that going in, and like the first audition I went in, and I still had to jump through hoops. I went in for it 4 times. And every time it was like, and I'd never really seen this on the audition. They were like, hey, we'd like to sit and chat with them for a little bit, afterwards. So like I ended up staying there for like 30, 40 minutes each time. And
just to make sure that the bro chemistry was there.
Yeah. And like Steve Lemmy, one of my showrunners, he was like, yeah, you came in and you like threw your leg up on a chair like Captain Morgan. You're like, what's up? Like he was like, you just had this kind of, we just kind of knew that you were the girl, you were Lucy. And so yeah, that's, you know,
and
four auditions later.
that was your first like long-term character experience, right?
Yeah. I booked a pilot and I shot a pilot for ABC that didn't go to air, but this was like the first thing. And, you know, to be the lead girl too was its kind of own pressure, and to fill someone else's shoes who had already shot it was also a weird thing.
Yeah.
Because it was like everybody knew her, and it was like kind of, but it, you know, ultimately it's like what is meant to be.
Yeah.
Is meant to be. It's
creative, you know. Sometimes, you know, like Game of Thrones, they had to reshoot that pilot, and I know people that were in that, you know. And
imagine.
Oh, I can't. Oh man. But I'm curious then, you know, because this is a reoccurring theme I talk about on this podcast a lot is finding your voice. Do you feel like on that set working with these, you know, improv comedic legends that you were able to kind of find, you know, just like not be in your head and just to kind of like live in the moment, whereas not being like, oh my God, I gotta nail this line this way, and if I don't get that right, then this is gonna suck. Yeah,
I think especially going into the second season, I'd really, as a comedic actress, had found my voice. I always say that, like, if you can do comedy, you can do anything. You know what I mean? It's such a exacting, and it's
so much harder than drama.
It really is.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, that to me, it's a challenge that I really enjoy. And, you know, it's cool because I, you know, it's kind of weird to be like, my voice. I don't really think of myself that way, but I
don't mean to be pretentious. Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
You're totally. I'm just like, sometimes I'm a little unself-aware, but I saw that I had created a voice for myself in seeing what they had written for me in the next season.
Yeah.
Because season 1, they'd already written it with someone else in mind, or just not knowing that it was going to be me, that I'd be Lucy. And then season 2, like, I was working with my acting guy, and he was like, I don't really have any notes for you on this. Like, they know you now. They got your number. And I was like, yeah. He was like, you're going to be great. You don't need me.
Which coach do you use in LA?
A guy, well, I don't work with him anymore. I'm blanking on his name. This is even
Tom Draper?
No.
Oh, okay.
Tom Draper. Isn't that the guy from Mad Men?
That's Don Draper, but I work with Tom Draper. I
work with John Hamm on everything I do. But anyways, it was just cool to see that they had like written for my voice and written for me, and like knowing me and like where I come from, and kind of like my more tomboy sort of ways.
In season 2, as they picked up on all that. That's amazing. And then being on a show like that, I know X amount of years blocked out every year to do that. What were films coming your way that you were trying to squeeze in, or was it too hard to balance both?
Yeah, I mean, like, what's cool about Tacoma is like we shoot it pretty quickly, and you know, so I was able to do Yellowstone in my, you know, most people would never be able to balance, like, I'm so lucky to be able to do the 2 shows. So I was doing Yellowstone in my kind of break between season 1 and 2 of Tacoma.
And how did Yellowstone come your way?
I'd gotten close on a part, and a friend of a friend was like, is friends with Taylor Sheridan, and I think he basically called him up and was like, hey, do you know this girl? Like, she's kind of, and in his own words, he always describes me as the female Matthew McConaughey. And he was like, you gotta know this fucking girl. She's so fun and cool. And so yeah, I mean, I basically, you know, I can tell this like story afterwards, is that they had me do this like small audition with literally 3 lines. And then I got the part. I was actually in Ireland when I got the part, and I was already a fan of the show. So like, my sisters were in the room. I started crying. It was like so over the top, but it was like, I just, you know, as a girl who grew up in the South and being able to, like, kind of portray that like Americana world, and being on a
rodeo,
getting to ride a horse to like, at work. It's just, so cool. So anyways, yeah, and you know, having talked to Taylor afterwards, he was like, oh no, I saw you, figured out what you were about. He was like, I basically wrote the role for you.
Wow.
Which was like, you know, it's like still one of those things. I'm like, what is
so
life?
surreal.
It really is. It's so cool.
And you know, I don't want to give too much away because I know episode 5 is about to air on Sunday. So you're about to appear. Well, you'll have appeared by the time this airs. But
yeah.
What can you kind of give us a clue about what's in store for the rest of the season, being as broad as possible for your character?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Sheridan is an incredible writer, and his ability to like build suspense through the show. Like I've been buying it on iTunes, so I get the episode the next day. So
Me too.
Episode, and like episode 4 was so. I mean, you know, he's such an incredible writer. And like, yeah, so my part on the show, without giving anything away, is that I play a barrel racer who comes on, finds her way onto the Dutton Ranch, and I just start like stirring up mischief. And, you know, and it's just so cool to like have someone like Sheridan who he authentically comes from this world. And
yeah, he does, because he's made a character in the, he's made an appearance a few times. And I didn't know if that was like, because he is that, or just because
he is so authentically everything he writes about. And I think that's why people like it so much, is, you know what I mean, it speaks to like all the ranchers I personally know think it's the best show that's ever been on television, because nobody's really written a show for them.
No.
And you know, it's like it's such a niche demographic, and what's cool is to see a show like that where it's like he clearly wrote it for, you know, like he said himself, he's like, how many shows are there about like New York mobsters? Like they have so many shows about them. So it's like for, you know, ranchers and people who live out in rural way, and, you know, farmers and stuff, it's something that they can identify with and relate to. And I think that it just, you know, he started advertising it by like putting up, you know, billboards at rodeos, not on rodeo. So, and I think that it just created an authentic audience that just kept building and building. And now it's like people I would never expect to be into the show, they're like, it's my favorite show.
Yeah, totally. And how was it working, you know, or I don't know if this is giving anything away, but like, you know, you have Kevin Costner, Wes Bentley, Cole Hauser, you know, so many other amazing actors in the show. What's it like, you know, because as an actor, it can be really hard to come onto a set that's already got an established rhythm and a core base of characters, and you're this new reoccurring. They can be, I've heard it going either way, where everyone's really welcoming and it's awesome, or it's like you got to fight to prove yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty fortunate where, I mean, also you pick up my vibe. I come in hot. Like,
yeah, you know? Me too.
I'm like, you either like me or you don't. It's a take it or leave it situation. But like, luckily, like all those guys are so sweet and cool, and they're just, I think I can say this. So my very first scene, and of course I was nervous going into it, but it was not with Kevin Costner. But I'm like, they like get us ready, they're about to roll, and then like Kevin Costner just rolls up, and everyone, you know, everyone's like, hey Kevin, da da da, and they're like, he was like, hey, don't mind me, back to work everyone. And then he just like pulls up a seat and in the room behind a camera to just like, and just sitting there with his coffee, and you know, it's early morning or whatever, and he's just drinking his coffee, and I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna like watch the scene.
Wow.
But no, he's so incredibly nice. They're all lovely people. They all love and are proud of the story they're telling and are grateful to be there. And you can just feel that, you know, it's like, I also think it's also cool. It's not a show about a bunch of like teenagers or, you know what I mean? Early 20 somethings, you know, these are a lot of grown-ups, and they act like grown-ups, you know what I mean? And you appreciate that.
And I got to ask, like, culture-wise, what's it like shooting in Montana? Has that been awesome?
Yeah, it's cool. So we shoot part of it in Montana and then part of it in Park Cities, Utah.
Okay.
Shot part of season 3. And
which one is the ranch in Montana?
Or the ranch is in Montana.
Okay.
It's in Darby.
Got it.
And I mean, it's just so cool. It's kind of like you always hear actors say that, like, you know, wearing the costume puts them into character, but like being up in those mountains and like having that time, and like
Yeah.
I love, like, some people like to go to the beach for their vacation. I'm like a mountain girl through and through.
Totally.
Like, for me, it's such a cool way to just, you know, get a free trip in.
Yeah, explore. That's awesome. And then I'm so curious, you know, what else you have in the works? I know you mentioned that possible other seasons for these, but like, what are some other things that are, you know?
I have a movie coming out.
Okay.
Max Reloading the Nether Blasters. It's Kevin Smith is in that. Greg Grunberg.
Oh, I saw a photo with you and Kevin Smith. Now that makes sense. Wow.
Yeah. And it's cool, man. It's kind of like a love letter to retro vintage, like, gaming, and it's kind of like in the Ready Player One.
Okay.
Ernie Klein already approved and said he can't wait to see it. Like, he, you know, who wrote Ready Player One.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a fun kind of cool thing. And I shot that when I booked Tacoma, so it took a second to come out. We did a month straight of night shoots, which for me was such like a learning experience, where like I'd done night shoots before, but nothing on that.
You had to become nocturnal.
Truly nocturnal.
Yeah.
I like just every day I was waking up around 6 p.m. and then getting dropped off at my hotel room at 9 a.m. and like watching people go start their day. And I was like, gave me such like reverence and appreciation for people who, like, you know, work those kinds of hours with no end in sight, you know?
What was it like working with Kevin? You know, he's been such an iconic filmmaker in the independent scene for so long. You know, how was that experience?
It was amazing. He's a super gracious guy. He's super, I mean, I don't know if this is, I keep saying, I don't know if I can say this, but like, he actually had his health scare like 4 days after we shot that.
Wow.
But he just couldn't have been nicer. He would like gave me a bunch of great advice, and you know, he has a daughter, and he was like, you know, as like things I tell my daughter, and he was just so sweet and cool about everything. And Greg Grunberg too is also an incredible actor who really like took me under his wing and was like, you know, he's buddies with the Broken Lizard guys, and when they, you know, when I was getting close, he was like, oh, you know, he was rooting for me and kind of coaching me through stuff. And, you know, you appreciate people like that, because, you know, it's hard to find cheerleaders or people that'll campaign for you without something, you know,
agenda.
And when you meet people, like, appreciate them, thank them, recognize them, because I don't know, that's, and you do that for other people.
That's so beautiful. I love that. That's amazing. And, you know, now that we're kind of living in this pandemic crisis, and, you know, there's kind of a big question mark about when we'll ever get to do what we love to do again, and how soon, and under what circumstances. And I'm curious, you know, with all this time that we've had to reflect, what are some things that you want to do in the future? You know, like characters or projects or filmmakers. What are some goals you have?
You know, that's an interesting thing. I think I'm just now in a place where I'm like letting myself dream this big.
Yeah.
I think to a certain degree, I was just kind of like grateful for where I could find my voice. And, you know, I think I'm so proud to have grown as a comedic actress and have the skills to go, you know, you always want to be able to like make people laugh on a bigger scale or have an opportunity. You know, I think for me, it's so about, you know, having roles where I know I can find a way into the character and being able to represent a different type of woman, you know what I mean? And I look for those opportunities. And then, you know, it's like, of course, I'm a very physical person. I do jujitsu. I would love to get to do an action movie or something like that. I'm going to go watch some stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, I just like, another part of me is like, I'm still so smitten with it all. I'm just grateful to work. And every time that opportunity comes up, I'm just like.
What about writing? Is that something that interests you at all?
Yeah, I write a little bit. I'm still a little shy about it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
half the battle is putting yourself out there and showing other people. But also on a producing level, I see, you know, I'm great at connecting people and, you know, I have a good eye for projects and stories and stuff like that. So without a doubt, I think there will be more of that in my future. But right now it's just so fun to get to like sit in this role as an
Yeah.
actor who's getting to like learn from people and,
Getting to
um,
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
getting to work.
Are your parents thrilled? Did your sisters ever pursue it?
No, no. One of my
Uh,
sisters has a travel agency to Cuba. The other one, it has a fashion line. We all kind of do our own
you
things,
want
but
you want to shout them out now, or I don't want to. Is that bad?
Conscious Cuba, Shop Bailey Harrison.
All right, cool.
Yeah, but sorry, what would you ask me
uh, God, I had a great question. I thought.
Anyways.
Well, we just plugged your face. Oh, did they pursue it? And how do your parents?
My parents. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so basically, me getting Yellowstone, my dad thinks I am Meryl Streep now. Like, it's hilarious. I'm like, Dad, okay, calm down. It's not like I'm not a main character. I'm just like in his voice. He's like, well, Hassie, I'm just so proud I could spit, baby. I just knew this was gonna happen for you. So
Because of the content, or because of Kevin Costner?
I think all of it, just being
Yeah.
on a Western and things that like his friends know about. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think my parents were always very supportive of, you know, this path for me. And, you know, as is my mom. And so it's just cool to, you know, a part of me, of course it feels good to make your parents proud.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I got to ask you, I know this is a bit of a heavy question, but, try to answer it in the best way you can for all the young, Hassies out there that maybe graduated high school early and are going to college and are trying to figure out their way around this acting thing. Any advice or words of wisdom you would have for them?
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe I'm just echoing things that you'll hear everywhere else, but you just got to be consistent. You got to stick with it, and you got to be okay with the valleys. And for 95% of actors, it is more valleys than peaks.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we all kind of like look up and do the compare and despair of the Margot Robbies or the people that just jump from one job to the next. I mean, we can't all be Shea Wiggum, like.
Yeah. Well, it's Miles Teller for me.
Yeah. But and
Yeah.
and just knowing that whatever your path is right for you, and just being okay with it, and just showing up every day and doing the work. And I think having like a child's mind around it, and just keep studying and keep making friends. I think what we do is such a team sport, and I work begets work for real in this town. It's like make it and in a really genuine way. I'm not saying really networky, but just like I said, those people that kind of have been angels in my life. It's like I've done things to return the favor, and all that stuff comes full circle. It's a very
pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Yeah.
I know.
And I guess my biggest thing is just keep your chin up. Just keep swimming from Nemo.
I love that. Do you still work with an acting coach at all? Or do you still do scenes? Like, how do you stay inspired during the lockdown? What has been the key for you staying inspired?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've been pretty lucky. I've had a lot of auditions still coming in.
Oh, wow. You're in LA?
Yeah, I'm in LA, and everything's on tape now. And and I've been able to, be creating characters still. And then honestly, for me, such a big part of acting is just studying other actors and watching movies. And it's like I've literally watched I've watched 20 Western movies in the last month of just like getting in that feel and like picking that vibe up. So, I think that it's different than for every person. And there were times like I got burned out on acting class, and it wasn't right for me anymore. I reached a point where it was like, it almost was there to like, it felt like it was making me feel small.
Yeah.
And it's like, always be acting, but like, you don't always have to be, and I didn't really want to spend any more money on it. It was like, there's that element of it too. So it's like, honor the ebbs and flows of whatever you need to do to, keep it fun.
Yeah, I love that. Any chance you would ever do theater?
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
totally see you on the stage. Come to
Oh,
New York.
yeah. I mean, I would love to. I mean, living in New York, having a stint there is definitely a bucket list thing for me. Like I've been manifesting a project that takes me there. That would make me very.
I'll write it. It'll be good.
I'm in.
Hassie Harrison, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so fun talking with you. You're a total bro, and I mean that in the best sense of that term. And let's hang in LA and get coffee sometime. And I'm so grateful for you taking the time to come on and give back. And let's do this again on Yellowstone season 4.
I would love that. Thank you so much, Ryan. And honestly, your podcast is awesome. I listen to like so many of you're such a great interviewer. So thank you.
You're awesome. And you mean so much to me. And I'm so excited. You're about to take out the whole world, you know. Margot Robbie better be running scared because Hassie Harrison is coming.
Bless you. I appreciate you.
I hear they're trying to reboot Harley Quinn, so I'll give him a call.
Uh-oh.
No, it's all love. But thank you so much.
You bet, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk soon.